If the books we read say something about us, do the books we want to ban also say something about us, our values, and our beliefs? Our media partners at the San Francisco Standard have written an article that probes that question. As divisive politics play out across the country in the form of book bans, the Standard has found in San Francisco last year, people requested only 4 books be banned from the San Francisco Public Library. Joining us live now is Julia Zagaros, San Francisco Standard Arts and Culture reporter. Julie, thanks for your time today.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, interesting article. Before we reveal which 4 books local library users wanted to see removed, let's put this in focus. Are requests for book bans increasing across the country?
They are increasing at a rapid rate, and some are going so far to call it the new pandemic because so many book bans are happening, and the American Library Association is collecting data on this, and already the data that they have from 2022 has outstripped the data from 2021, just showing that there's been this really big surge in requests for book bans across the country.
All right, so in which states are these requests most common, and what kind of titles usually get targeted?
So book bans have been processed, meaning books have been taken off the shelves, not just requested to be, in 32 states across the country. And some states have more book bans than others. Texas and Florida are 2 near the very top, but there have been no book bans whatsoever passed in California. Some of the books most commonly requested to be banned include books with LGBTQ material, books on racism or that have to do with race, that feature people of color as main protagonists. And most of the books, I'd say about 75% of them are fiction, and then 50% are young adult titles. So there's also this concern about getting potentially provocative material out of the hands of young people.
Okay, so now let's look at San Francisco, which often goes the other way, and in this case, no different. You said only 4 titles had any complaints and requests for removal from the public library. What are they?
Yeah, and before I give you the 4, let me just underscore that none of these titles have been removed from the San Francisco Public Library. So these are just requests that have been made by library patrons, and they're a very small number. So that alone, I think, speaks to how different we are in the Bay Area, that these book bans are just proliferating across the country. But here in San Francisco, they are such a small number that are even requested.
Well, let's start with the first one, the Bible.
Yeah. So the Bible, again, most commonly read book in the world, the most popular best-selling title of all time still to this day. But some San Franciscans don't want it on their library shelves.
And when you look at the percentage of people non-religious in San Francisco, does that make more sense?
For sure. So my colleague Liz backed this up with data that shows that there are fewer religious believers in San Francisco than anywhere in the country, and that this number keeps dropping. So it speaks to the bubble of the Bay Area that we live in, where we just don't have as many religious believers.
Okay, The Return, Trump's Big 2024 Comeback, is another book requested for banning. This one maybe not too surprising, right?
Yeah, not too surprising. We don't tend to be big fans of Trump in the Bay Area. And again, this was supported with the data. We have a smaller amount of Trump supporters in the Bay Area than most other places in the nation. And that number also continues to drop. So the idea of Trump coming back and making a big return, not so popular around here.
Okay. The Contagion Myth, Why Viruses Are Not the Cause of Disease. Another one that some people don't like in San Francisco. What does this author claim, and how does it conflict with our beliefs?
Yeah, so this author is saying that viruses really don't cause illness and sickness, including viruses like COVID. And I think that's something a lot of people around here have a really hard time with. We tend to hold on to our COVID avoidance practices longer than other cities, as the data in the article shows. And most people are very cautious and aware of COVID. So the idea that COVID doesn't make you sick at all, again, is something that most people around here would find very threatening.
Right? Okay, we're going to move along really quickly. We have about 30 seconds, but I want to touch on real quickly Death of a Nation.
Yeah. So this is a revisionist history, basically blaming the Democratic Party for all of our troubles in San Francisco and the nation. And with such a high population of Democratic voters in San Francisco, this was another title that was really unpopular.
All right, so in conclusion, in the 10 seconds that we do have, what does this say about us?
Just how different we are from the rest of the country. Not only are book bans not a big problem here, and we'd love to keep it that way, but also the book bans that we do have requests that to be made are very, very unusual and very different from the rest of the country.
Indeed. Julie Zagaris, thank you so much. I hope people will check out the article, and you can check out more of the San Francisco Standard's other original reporting on their website, sfstandard.com.